everybody. Hello. Welcome to the Quest for Truth, Hidden Mysteries TV. I am excited again to have with me my incredible co-host, Karen. Hey, Karen.
Hey, how are you, Corina? Glad to be here. Glad that Penny's in the house with us.
Yeah.
So happy about that.
Yes, absolutely. You guys, we have somebody really remarkable with us today. And, you know, this show today may trigger you and stretch you, but it may also just help you awaken and remember certain things that maybe you buried because you had no one to share them with. Maybe you didn't understand. If you are a Christian out there, I'm sure that maybe if you dared to share them, you were told that you've lost your mind or you need deliverance. And, you know, the reason we do these shows, you guys, before I introduce formally this incredible warrior that we have with us today, the reason we do this is because we want to present to you your choice of walking your quest for truth. So the people that, you know, we're so honored and blessed to have are people that reflect a part of truth that we need to engage with. And then it's our choice what we do with that truth. And, you know, today, this amazing, powerful, just warrior, Penny Shepard, Penny L.A. Shepard. I want to tell you just a little bit about her because she has a remarkable story that yet again may just help you remember so that you can walk your freedom on your path of becoming who you're supposed to become and doing what you need to do. So Penny is an MKUltra super soldier who was genetically engineered and experimented upon in utero. And she was implanted as a child. She was tortured physically, spiritually, psychologically, many type of ways, you know, sex trafficked, closed in cages, drugged, beaten. And she was used for her giftings. Particularly one of them was remote viewing by for espionage purposes by the deep state. And you guys, she has come out of that kicking butt, raising her voice and calling for the truth so that we as humanity can awaken. We all carry facets of truth, and she has a powerful facet of truth that she's going to share with us. Penny, I'm so excited to have you on with us today. Thank you for being with us and doing everything you're doing.
Thank you. I was born 1958, August 11th, 1958, in Hollywood, Florida, in a hospital. It was called Hollywood Memorial. And then I was raised in a place called Ives Estates. Now that was, I'll be 65 this August 11th. And I didn't actually start to find out who I was until I left my husband in San Diego, March of 2016, who was a former retired Carlsbad police officer. His father was also a deputy sheriff who ran from the Santee office in San Diego. And then he also was a historian for the San Diego museum for the sheriffs, the deputy sheriffs. So when I left, I started researching and I found out that I was involved in these projects. I asked, I went to Illinois. I lived in Illinois for about 2 years, 1 year in a crazy house. As I started finding out who I was, I contacted one of my former agents. I'm a singer by trade. And I've also worked many other things. So I'm also an actress trained at Stella Adler Conservatory of Acting. In New York University. Stella Adler was teacher to Marlon Brando and to Robert De Niro, who's kind of a POS. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's an acronym. So I went from I went to let's go back to my my elementary school was Mady Ives Elementary School, and so it'll become important in a while. I lived in Ives Estates off Ives Dairy Road. Then they took me across county lines to go to this school. It's called the Henry D. Perry High School in Miramar. Now, I'm not tracing anything about my life until I leave my husband in March of 2016, and then I start tracing things. I contact my former agent, John, and ask him if he'll help me represent this orchestra leader in Illinois. I'm on disability because they erased me chemically. I had to learn how to walk and talk all over again. And so I'm like, well, I can make a little bit of money and I can represent this guy who's an orchestra leader. Now, this is when things are like getting weird, when I'm really starting to research. I start writing this television series called Bradford and Valentine. And Bradford and Valentine is predicated off of course, Lucifer and Castle, and then this series called Psyched. And Psyched is about these two kids that they learn, that the father is a police officer, but they learn their skills from observation. Okay, so acute observation to very minute minutia. Okay, so like, you know, he will walk into a crime scene, look on the floor and see a pin on the floor, and he'll make his predications off of that, but he tells everyone he's a psychic, but he's not. Okay, so there's many ways that you can glean intel. My primary focal of intel is through God. Okay, so I've talked to God since I was a little child, talked to Jesus as a little child, 3 years old, walking through whatever stuff that I had to go through, and being erased because I was literally erased. I had no childhood recollections whatsoever. Only the only recollections that I had were from stories that the family told me, and then also through remembering movies that I watched. Right, that's weird. You know, you get your memories from like watching a movie of Christmas and stuff like that. So so I start researching in March of 2016 when I leave my husband and I go to Illinois, and then I meet this person who's he says he's a keyboard player. Not. He's actually an orchestra leader. So I go down there and I'm still married, but I told my husband, you know, when I left him, he said, you will get arrested, you'll get thrown in a crazy house, and you'll be made homeless, and all those things happened to me. He's not a psychic or prophet. He knows this because this is the orchestrated right out of the CIA handbook. This is what they're going to do to you. So when I'm in Illinois and I'm writing and I'm researching all this stuff to write my book, and then I find this individual on, it was a dating app. I find this individual and I said, well, he says, come down. I think it was the 15th of September in 2016, because it turned into the 16th, because when you're playing at a gig, you play from 9 in the evening until 1:45. So of course it's on the next day. When I go down to meet this individual, I say, look, I'm not really looking for a date, but I'll come down and I'll be your wingman. So he shows my picture to everybody so they know me before I get down there, which is really weird. But he told me he was just a keyboard player. Well, he's not. He's an orchestra leader. He's a savant. He has 18 people playing horns and stuff for him. Okay. And he's a prolific, he has a swing band, essentially. So when I go down there and I walk in, I say, this is weird. I noticed there's a camera set up on this sidewalk and it looks like Secret Service, right? And I just gotten out of two months of praying and learning how to walk again and learning how to talk, because I couldn't remember anything 5 minutes at a time. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. So I go in and the place is packed, and I'm like, this is weird, because I'm a singer. I've been doing this for 50 years. And I'm like, this is weird. It's a Thursday night and it's a swing band. So this is a lot of people in here. So I say to one of the guys, this is a lot of people for a Thursday night. Is there something going on that I don't know about? He says, the mayor is here. I say, the mayor of what? He says, the mayor of Chicago. I'm like, really? So the mayor of Chicago at that time was Mayor Emanuel. Mayor Emanuel was chief of staff under Obama, I believe it was. I'll have to look it up. I'm pretty sure it was Obama, not Clinton. And so he then left as chief of staff, and then he ended up being mayor of Chicago. So I'm like, that's weird. And then my date has shown my picture to everybody. And then the mayor, he says, hey, you want to take a picture with the mayor? And I'm like, not really. You know, I just got out of like fasting and praying, and now I'm thrust back into the limelight. And then as we're walking out in the retinue of the mayor with my date. And he says, that's not all. And I say, that's not all. And he says, no, the mayor of London's here. So I said, the mayor of London. I didn't know that London had a mayor. I thought they only had a queen. Because at that time, my political acuity was 0. So the mayor of London was Sadat Khan. So, right. So I'm like, this is weird. Okay. My first night out, I'm walking into a club. My keyboard player date is not a keyboard player, but the mayor came down specifically to see him. And the mayor of London came down specifically to see him, to see my date. And then I'm filmed going out. And at the end of the night, I'm thinking, I don't want my picture in the paper, right? What? So I'm wondering, so did they know that their super soldier was going to be there? That they're, then they wanted to see if I was like not walking on a walker, that I actually had to learn how to walk in high heels again. Because you know how we are about high heels. I'm on a ranch right now, so I'm not wearing any high heels because seriously, that would be very bad. You get stuck in the mud here and, you break a hip and twist an ankle. So no high heels on here. I just wear cowboy boots. But anyway, so that was the beginning of, then I contact one of my first managers, who was my first boyfriend and fiance. I hadn't seen him in 40 years. I ended up going back to Lake Havasu, where he was. I spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert with not the Satan, but a Satan. And then I remember asking a rabbi about the 40-40-40. What is that all about? What's the 40-40-40 about? He says, well, Penny, that's God's number. I'm like, really? That's God's number? Because I think it needs to be shorter. How about 4 days instead of like 40 days and 40 years in the desert? And he says, well, that's God's number. So I end up homeless, and I end up in touch with both of my former agents and both of my former handlers, but I don't know that at the time. And so I start researching, I'm researching more, I'm writing. And then I find out from my first husband, whose name is Zenos. So I was Mrs. Zenos. The name Zenos means stranger. There's a point to this whole thing. I was literally Mrs. Stranger. So, and that was in the 80s. And I didn't know, here's the other thing. I didn't know that all the people in my life knew each other for like 60 years. I didn't know they all knew one another. Okay. And I got erased. So I forgot that my first husband knew Darrell, who was my manager and my agent. And then I left him. And then they sent Steve in to retrieve me to be my handler. I find out that after Steve, I call Steve, and I hadn't talked to him in many years. And I say, look, we were married. I say, I just want to know the truth. Please just tell me the truth. And so he calls me and he's like doing, you know how you see the little dots on the phone? He's like hesitating. And I say, there's no repercussions. Okay. I'm not going to yell at you or anything. I just want to know the truth. I deserve the truth. So when he talks to me, he says, John is your brother. I don't even know he knew John, who was my agent in the 90s, who I slept with, had an affair with. He says, John is your brother. And I pretty much lose it and start screaming and I use the analogy like a truck driver that used to be a sailor that has Tourette's. And, and I'm like, what's wrong? And this is in my intro on the Dark Outpost. It's what's wrong with you people? That's exactly what I said. What's wrong with you people? And he says, well, you didn't know. I said, well, you knew, but nobody said anything because that's how they keep these secrets. They keep them forever. That's what the Illuminati do. They keep these bonded secrets until they're dead or you're dead. And you're never supposed to break MKUltra. It's not supposed to happen. But through God, it happened because I've always trusted in God, no matter what happened to me, no matter how I was erased. Did you have a question?
Annie, for the viewers that are watching that have no clue what MKUltra is and Super Soldier, can you explain what MKUltra is and then what Super Soldier is?
Yes. Okay. So I use a broad-based term for MKUltra, right? And I remember there was one show, this guy said, oh, well, I can't have you on my show because your definition of MKUltra is different from everybody else's. You're not talking about multiple personality disorder or identity disorder. And I said, well, here's the broad-based definition. Everyone on planet Earth has been MKUltra'd. So the simplistic term is mind controlled. Okay, mind control with a K, right? MKUltra top secret. And there's many acronyms for this. Also, an acronym for MKUltra is manufactured killers utilizing lethal tradecraft requiring assassinations. So they will place individuals in strategic points in office. They'll groom them as children, and then they will become, CEOs of big corporate organizations. They will become presidents. They will become your congressmen and your congresswomen. So that is, if you don't know what it is, I would entreat you to watch The Manchurian Candidate. There's two of them. The first one was, I think, in the 60s, and then this with Frank Sinatra, and then the second one is with Denzel Washington. I will give you a preliminary understanding, and it's MKUltra mind control is global. It's not regional. It's not like, oh, hey, we don't have that in Europe. Yeah, you do. We don't have that in China. Yes, you do, actually. The pastors aren't doing that. Yes, they actually are. They're mind controlling you. So I say in its broadest base definition, if you've read a book, if you watched a movie, if you've listened to music, if you've watched television, if you've gone to see a legit open theater, okay, Shakespeare was an MKUltra handler. Shakespeare wasn't even Shakespeare. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. We had a lady on our show that talked about that. But so you have to understand that it's a premise in which, if you're in office or you're like a president or a leader of a country, you want to be able to mind control everybody to vote for you, right? And so through movies, through commercials, a commercial will tell you, I don't watch TV at all, or anything that has commercials in it at all. I use the military industrial entertainment complex. I use the movies and the videos that they offered to deprogram. So people are like, well, I can't watch that. I say, well, if you are, mental, you have a mental acuity enough, the way that I started deprogramming myself, because I've been in the industry for half a century, which even saying that is like, wow, how old are you? I'm half the age of Methuselah. Okay, not really. But so what I tell people to do is I tell you, watch the television or Netflix or whatever, and keep the captions on. If you fall asleep, there's MKUltra programming going on, and there's something in there that you needed to find out. And then stop it, take pictures, because the mind is like a computer. So when you're looking around, you're literally taking snapshots of everything with your computer eyes, and that's how you're facilitating memories. There's many ways that you can make memories. You can make memories olfactory, through your sense of smell, through touch, through colors, through sights, through sounds, through vibration, just many methodologies for which you can retain those memories. So then when you're watching motion pictures, it will elicit memories from your own storehouse of memories. So I say that when you're watching these things and you have a question on your mind, and then also ask God, hey, should I watch that? Should I not? I tell people that come to me, everyone needs to start writing. And whatever your craft is, utilize that. So if you can write, if you can post on Facebook, girl, you can start a blog. Okay, it's that easy. And when you start your blog, and you start telling your story, somebody's going to read that and say, oh my God, that helped me. Thank you. So anybody that's saying, well, everybody's just out there talking, nobody's doing anything. This is doing something. When you're having this podcast, you are doing something. You're talking, you're reaching people. And then that person's going to reach out to somebody else. And eventually this is going to trickle down to the children, who the children are our future generation. Yes. They are our future. I remember I didn't get to the story yet, but I will on Dark Outpost. Barbie became, I don't know how old, on I think the 6th of March. And I auditioned for Rocker Barbie. Yeah, I know. I did a lot of things. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
It was Universal Studio, and it was for Giorgio Moroder was there, and Phil Schaefer, I forget what his first name was, from The Tonight Show, and they were the judges for it. But I looked like a Barbie. All right. And that's one of the things that they have you. They groom you because they're going to use you as a brand. And when you're in the entertainment industry high up, you are now being used as a brand. And there are allegations that some people have been taken out and replaced by clones.
Right.
So let me tell you my project name. So when I start researching, I find out the project that I was involved with is called Project Genesis, and the sub-project is Eve. Eve is a cloning project. Joseph Mengele, it is my belief that I'm in his lineage, because when I started asking questions, I said, and I find out from my husband that my former agent John is my brother. Then I start asking questions, and I say, why does he look like Joseph Mengele? Why do I look like Irene Schoenbein, who married Joseph Mengele? And why does my murdered brother David, who wrote a book entitled The Whistleblower, unpublished, the last copy taken from me by an agent in Illinois who knew my first handler, Durrell, why did he look like Rolf, their son?
Wow.
Okay, so the Project Genesis and the cloning project is, I believe, how some of us actually came to be. Now, cloning, if you're from a clone, it doesn't mean you don't have a soul. It simply means that they reproduced you from either the ovum of another individual, and then they can take that and they can make clones from skin cells, from stem cells. And what they do is if they're using the ovum, they take the ovum, watch Boys from Brazil, and they take all the DNA out of it, and then they put in there what they want. And then they use a little electroshock, like in Young Frankenstein, where Young Frankenstein comes to life, right? From electric shock, because we're all frequency. And then that starts the generation of the growth of the egg. And then they can take that egg and they can implant it in a woman, and then the baby is born 9 months later, hopefully. Not 10 or 12, because that's like, ow.
Yeah.
So when I start researching these things, I am asked, do I want to end up like Snowden and Assange? And I'm like, Snowden and Assange? Why would I end up like Snowden and Assange? I'm a singer. I did. I ended up locked up for a year in a crazy house. And I started researching further. Then I found out more things about my brother's son, who was in the last administration in a very high position, which I will not say his last name. Let's just call him John, because that's his name. And I start finding out more things and more things and more things. When I was growing up, did you have a question?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
When I was growing up, I was a writer. I was reading on 11th grade level in 3rd grade. They wanted to advance me 2 grades, and my mom said no. And then they wanted me to go on a book tour with this book that I wrote. It was called Albert the Shy Dragon. It was taken from me in this school. So this is significant. It was taken from me in Henry D. Perry Junior Middle School. So now when I'm trying to find out who I am, and I'm looking for pictures because they took everything. And by the way, when I was growing up, I asked my mom, why are there no pictures of me? Right. And she's just like, oh, well, I got tired of taking pictures. I was like, I was the baby. I was the last baby. Why would you get tired of taking pictures? No pictures of me. And then my sister and my brother told a story that when I was like 8 months old, I was taken away for a month or a month and a half. They didn't know how long, taken to a hospital because I had pneumonia. I'm thinking maybe not, right? Is that possible that that's when they replaced me? Like, did my mom's actual baby die? And then they replaced me with this other infant that looked very similar. I don't know, because I was a baby. Who would know? You're a baby.
Yes.
So I think that I look a lot like Irene Mengele, because I think maybe I'm from her ovum. I'm still in discovery on some of these things, so I can't give any definitive answers. So one thing that I have learned, because I used to be definitive about everything, now I'm like, you know what I know? That I don't know anything. That I know a lot about a little and a little about a lot, but I certainly don't know everything. And now I'm open to anything. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I suggest to people, when you start researching, don't go in there with preconceived notions. Just keep your mind a little bit open to any and all possibilities, because these individuals that are in my family, they're in every family.
Yes.
My story is, it makes appear like it's unique, but it's actually not. Many people have been through SRA, which is a satanic ritual abuse. They're not aware of it. They just think they had a crappy childhood. Okay. Yeah. And they actually didn't. And because then I find out, when I start researching my mom, my fake aunt, who was my mom's lover, which I didn't realize that until I left, and then I was at Darrell's house, and I remember my mom telling me something about having a room with my aunt, and I was like,
Wow.
now I have to go throw up. Thank you. But that was my reaction, okay? Because I've been lied to.
Yes, yes. So,
I've been, go
Penny,
ahead.
it seems to me like you really have been lied to from the beginning. You all, and
Yeah.
all these memories then start coming as you were maturing more and searching for the truth and kind of putting pieces together, right?
Yes, yes.
So can you explain what do you mean by super soldier? Because I know maybe some of our viewers have never heard of super soldier, or
Right.
some may have heard, but they don't really understand it. So when you say super soldier, what is
So
that, and how were you?
many different kinds of super soldiers. All
Yes.
right. I know that when I was singing, I was dancing 6 nights a week. And then my day off, I was, picking up 80-pound boxes of clothes and gear and moving around the country. That doesn't make me a super soldier. There are super soldiers that are actually have infinite strength, that they have a lot of abilities, survival abilities. They're used in the military, but there are other kinds of super soldiers, which they're genetically enhanced. And I tend to actually kind of believe that we all have somewhat of alien DNA in every single person,
Right.
because we all have abilities to see things. We have telepathic abilities. Everyone has them. It's not like, oh, look at you, you're the weirdo. No, we all have this ability to, your child is in dire danger, and you feel something weird, right? Or you have a dream and the dream comes true. A lot of these things. So but you're told that that's crazy. If you're hearing someone's thoughts, they're like, oh, well, you must be schizophrenic because you're actually hearing what somebody's thinking. That's not true. I believe we all have these psychic abilities. So in my instance, they use me as what you would call a psychic spy. But I was unavailed of any of this. And what they would do is they'll just basically brush everything off that you're saying, oh, you're just being dramatic. When in fact, these things actually happened, but that's how they will dissuade you from that. I was isolated as a child. I was beaten. I was starved. And I had virtually no memories from 5 years below, and that's not normal. And so when I start going back into even my recent relationships, like with Darrell, which wasn't recent, it was 40 years ago, but I couldn't remember anything. I remember in high school, I'd meet somebody, and I met this one kid over and over again. I could not remember his name. That's not normal. Many people say, well, I can't remember names of places, but it's a sign of trauma that you have been at some point erased at some point. And so when I start regaining some of my memories, when I got married the second time, I had to call Steve and ask him, when did we get married? I couldn't remember. I could remember we got married on Thanksgiving, but I didn't remember the year. I didn't remember that. I called him 4 times to ask him that. Right? That's weird that you wouldn't remember that. That's a significant date. I haven't been married 1,000 times. I've only been married twice. And the last relationship, I was with that person for 25 years because I'm Christian. And no matter what happened, I thought, I want this relationship to work, because the first relationship I left. And then I found out in my research that the Xenos family, is my belief that both Steve and Sheila, who were psychologists, work with an individual named Jolie West. Jolie West was an MKUltra handler. He worked under, I don't know if he worked under Sidney Gottlieb, who was biowarfare, but he worked certainly under Alan Dulles, who was head of the CIA under JFK. And he was at UCLA from 69 until 89. Now, look at Kanye West and look at Britney Spears. They were both taken to UCLA. So the legacy of these individuals, they teach other individuals, and it's a covert operation of scientists, of psychologists, of CIA, NSA, and they follow these individuals for their whole life. So in answer to your question regarding super soldier, many different kinds of super soldiers used in many different applications. One might be used in the entertainment industry. Another might be used in the governmental agency. Another might be used for their abilities, mathematical abilities. So many different super soldiers. Did you have another question?
Yeah. So you were not involved with the super soldier program for off planet, right? It was more here.
No, as a matter of fact, I interviewed with an individual who said that they were, and I'm like, I don't have any recollection of that at all.
Mhm.
But I do believe that they used me in time travel experiments. And I was erased. And I had one individual who came and told me that she recognized me from one of the Air Force bases. And she said that she came upon me and I was in a room behind a desk, which is very funny because when I was like 5, I had this desk in my, in the basement in my closet.
Mm.
And I also made a card for myself that said, I work for God. I've been working for God forever.
Yeah.
He's a good employer, by the way. Great.
Yes,
That's right.
he is the best. He's the best. So the way things started for you, you were realizing even as you were growing up that you were missing memories, right?
Yes, a lot.
And so then you started kind of piecing things together, even
Yes.
though people would have thought you're crazy.
Yes.
And because, for those of you that are watching and you're kind of starting to connect some dots here, I want you to kind of see the journey that Penny had, and maybe that's going to help you to walk your journey for your quest for your freedom, to come out of, as you walk your quest of truth, it's going to take you on your quest for freedom. So Penny, if the people that are watching, what should they do? Like, let's say if they're feeling like they have missing memories or weird things happen to them as a child, what is the first thing that they should do that you would
Okay.
recommend?
I'm going to give out my phone number. I give it out to everybody. I'm on a show now. It's called The Dark Outpost.
Yes.
I work with David Zublik. I've been working with him since October of like the year before. I don't know how long, but
A while.
around August, he came to me around my birthday and he asked me in 2022 if I would be his executive producer. And I was like, sure. I don't know what an executive producer does, but I'm all in. And then I started working with him and I became his co-host as well. So, and again, God told me when I was younger, don't worry about being a singer because you're going to be a reporter, and I'm reporting the news now. You're going to be a reporter and you're going to be writing later on in your life. I didn't think it was going to be like that. So here's what I started doing to come out of that programming. I started writing. I had to actually learn how to write again because I forgot how to write. So I took James Patterson's masterclass. I'm not saying you should do that, but seriously, I had to learn I wrote like this little snowflake outline, and then I started researching, and that research took me to something else. So I would suggest research. Don't take anyone's word for it. Don't listen to what I have to say. I can tell you my experiential history, but I don't know your life. Nobody knows your life.
Right.
You're the only person that knows your life. So if you want to trace those memories, you can trace those memories. Here's another thing. When I hadn't talked to Darrell in 40 years, and this was after I ended up at the Green Mill in Chicago with the orchestra leader. I went back and I started talking to Darrell, and I told him, send me a button-down shirt, because I used to sleep in his button-down shirts with some polo on it. It's a cologne. So smells will take you back to the very moment that you first smelled that. You might smell something and get sick to your stomach and not know why. That's a memory that maybe you blocked. Also, music. You'll remember when you hear a song, you're like, oh, I remember exactly where I was at that exact time that I first heard that, right? So go back and revisit some music. And then also the writing is instrumental. We've had Kathy O'Brien on the show, whom I love. And Kathy O'Brien also agrees. Go to Kathy O'Brien's website. She's got some stuff there. If you're homeless, you can't afford anything, then go there. She's like such an extraordinary individual. She's been doing this for 30 years. Okay. Now I'm going to give you my phone number. If you have any memories that you can't retrace, or you've got spotty spots in your history, and you think, hey, I might be MKUltra, or I might be satanically ritual abused. We have one girl, Monica B, who I started talking to her, and she found out, like, she's just finding out all this stuff about her. She had contacted me, and then I lost her, and Dave put us back together again, because after I was working on a show doing, I also, as a writer, I write myself out as Agent X11 Hollywood Dark Journalist, because I report on the dark side of Hollywood.
Yes.
And she she contacted me, and then I was on Dave's show just doing that segment on Fridays. He said, he asked me, hey, you want to do 4 hours? I was like, 4 hours? Really? Because it's like taking me all week just to do this. And so I said, how about 3? And then he gave me the 3 hours, and he came to me and said, hey, I have this person. Can she have an hour of your time? I was like, oh, that'd be perfect. Is it just more for next week? And then I recognized her. So we got back in contact. We started talking with one another. She is an awesome researcher. If you want to know how to research, take a look at some of our Friday shows on Dark Outpost. She's on every Friday. She'll be going to every other Friday, but she's on every Friday. And you can see how she does her research. And the research is tantamount. One rabbit hole about your life is going to take you down to other rabbit holes, but you're going to find out that there are virtually 0 degrees of separation. I used to think 6 degrees, 5 degrees, 4 degrees. Now I'm like, oh, dang, we're all related. Yeah. So here's my phone number. Please text my phone and say who you are. And I won't answer unless you're in my contacts. And also, if you think you might want to be on the show to speak, let me know. And also, if you have any intel that you want to share regarding to any Hollywood things or COVID or whatever, take a look at our guests. It's under the Dave Zublick channel, Dark Outpost, Penny Ellie Shepard, David Zublick. And my phone number is 619-779-9771. You can email me at penny@darkoutpost.com, or you can email david@darkoutpost.com. And I'll be more than happy to, I pretty much, live with my phone in my hand. So if you want to contact me, that's the best way to do it, because emails will get buried, as I know. So when I invite people to the show, I do a couple of things. I will email them, but then I ask them to give me their phone number. Then if they have problems getting on the show, then I will text them and say, hey, where are you? Like you guys did tonight. I was like, oh no, oh my God. So again, if you're having, if you want to know, I encourage you to get Kathy O'Brien's book. She will give you some pointers on that. And then, you can take a look at my blog, which is my name, Shepard, SHEPARD, like she paired, and then the word entertainment.com. You can tell I've been in the industry for like a long time. And it was David's wife that actually said, hey, David, you should have Penny be your executive producer, because you guys have this chemistry. Because we try to the things that you're going to research. I'm going to say this right now. You're going to research some very dark things. Guess what? You're going to cry. It's okay. That's God's way of healing you. Don't wallow in it. Know that you're going to reach a homeostasis, and you're not going to live in there. You don't live in that past anymore. But you have every right to examine it. And through your examination and your healing, I guarantee you, when you start a blog, you're going to help thousands of other people, because they're going to come to you. And then maybe you'll start a podcast like these two fine ladies, or maybe you'll end up on the Dark Outpost. Lord knows, because I'm inviting both of you to come on as my fifth hour co-host. So we will talk about that on air for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I want to just piggyback really quickly on what Penny was saying. As she was saying, you may find out some very hurtful, dark things, but you have to remember, we go back to Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, listen to me. The only power shadow has over you is the power you give it. In other words, a shadow cannot hurt you. But if you allow fear to come in, fear is going to say, oh, there's somebody there. There's somebody there. Yes. That's going to make you stop. But if you realize it's just a shadow of your past, and you have to go through that shadow to get to your freedom, to get to the place where you are becoming who you are supposed to become, so that you can be doing, just like Penny, what you're supposed to be doing and helping others. I just want to encourage you, is it going to be a little bit scary and dark? Like Penny said, yes. Can you go through it? Yes, you can, because it's a shadow. It's a shadow. Remember, a shadow cannot hurt you unless you let fear tell you that it can.
Yes.
Only power they have is what we give them. So Penny,
one of the things in my intro,
yes,
I have this little meme that I did with the from Resident Alien, and I said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow government, I
Yeah.
will fear no Satans.
Yeah. So good. Wow. Look at that. Such confirmation. That's what it is, you guys. So just, especially when you have Father by your side, and we all do, we just have to recognize that there is nothing that you cannot do, because you are fractals of him. You
Yes.
are fractals of that power and that glory. The only control they have is through fear. Don't let them control you through fear. Penny, let's go back, maybe, if you don't mind. You were mentioning something that I wanted to go revisit, that you were genetically engineered and experimented upon in vitro, in
Yes.
uterus. How
Yes.
how can you explain that for our viewers? Because maybe it's triggering some memories for them.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's a memory that you can't actually ascertain because you're in utero, right? But in retrospect, what they do is, in the satanic ritual environment, they will abuse the child in the womb. They can also genetically alter you in the womb. So, these are, I remember my mother saying that with me, that she was pushed down the stairs, and that's why I was the last child. So, the injury happens, the traumatic injury happens within the womb, and then the child is brought into the world with this traumatic injury, or whatever alterations they're doing chemically, because they were experimenting with children in the Nazi regime. So for people who don't know who Joseph Mengele is, many children don't. They're not teaching this. Everybody knows Hitler's name, but not a lot of people know who Joseph Mengele was. Joseph Mengele was called the Angel of Death. He was a scientist, and he worked and did copiously evil experiments on the people in the concentration camps. He did experiments on babies. He did experiments on adults. He murdered women and children. He took their bodies and hung the bodies in his laboratories. They used the skins of the people, hung them up. They ate them. They ate the hearts. They drank the blood. They took some of the skin and bound copies of Bibles in Mein Kampf. I had one woman call me and tell me that her grandfather, they gave her a Bible with her grandfather, and that was his skin on the Bible. So some very horrific things going on.
Wow, wow, wow. But they can come through it, Penny, just like you, right?
I'm sorry. I have one of my dogs just came in because it's raining outside. She's not actually trained in the house, so hopefully she's not going to eat any of my cords, and everything's not going to go black all of a sudden. Yes, you can come through it. And here's the thing. I use humor because you are going to have some very horrific things, but you will come out of it. It is a dark road, but you're never on that road alone. You have Jesus with you, holding your hand through it all. If I hadn't had that, I don't know how I would have the faith to go on and to be able to smile and to laugh and to investigate these dark things, because the Lord is my shepherd, and my last name was given to me by God. So I knew that my name was not my name for many years, and I was praying in a sanctuary in Escondido at Emmanuel Faith, and I was going to go do a country tour, and I said, God, could you please tell me what my name is? And he said, your name is Shepard. Go down to the courthouse and change it, and never change it again. So when I went down there, I changed it to Shepard. I came back. I told my boyfriend, I think I spelled my name wrong. I think I spelled Shepard wrong. He said, how could you spell your name wrong if that's not your name? I said, oh, that's my name. God told me that's my name. I never changed it. I got married again. I never changed it. His father said, is everything you own in the name of Shepard? I said, yeah. God told me that's my name, and he told me to never change it again. So I never changed it again.
Wow, 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 wow.
And I didn't understand its significance until 30 years later, when I go to represent this individual in Illinois. And I say, God, what should I, because I ask him, what should I wear in the morning? Who should I go see? I ask him for everything. And then I say, hey, what should I call this endeavor, with this individual? He says, call it Shepherd Entertainment Endeavors. And I was like, oh, I like that. The acronym is C. But I didn't understand the implications 30 years ago when he told me to change my name and never change it again. And then the acronym C meant something much bigger than even I understood, because it
Yeah.
means see. And
Mhm.
I thought I was going to be using it in the entertainment industry as an agent, but no, it was actually for me to see and then to help others to see. And in contrary to my brother who works for the Holy See, which is the unholy see, which is the Vatican,
Wow.
right? And I didn't understand any of this. This is why I say when I'm the little shepherd, SHEPARD, I follow the big shepherd, SHEPHERD. I have all my whole life. You will never be guided wrong. He saved my life a million times. He's told me things, and I'm obedient to those things that he tells me to do, because I know he's the only one I ever trusted in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't poo-poo his leading. You don't.
No.
Yeah. That's so important for.
And and I remember when I left John, I had this dream, and I had a dream that I was with these two black guys on stage. They had they were wearing fur coats, and I was going to be working on set with Gilbert Gottfried. How freaky is that, right? And nobody even knows who Gilbert Gottfried is. He's the black, he's that guy. And he said that John would come back to me and ask me to rejoin the band that I was in, Stinger. Well, 2 years went by. I was called on set for Silk Stockings. This comes into purview too. It was a program called Silk Stockings. It was filmed in San Diego, but it was about they were actually in Palm Beach, Florida. There were two police officers. Well, guess where Epstein was? Palm Beach. Okay, so I go and I work on the set. I walk in and I look, and there's Gilbert Gottfried's name on the director's chair, on one of the director's chairs. He's not a director, and I was like, oh, wow, 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 wow. And 2 weeks later, and I was working with two black guys, singing with them. I'd sang with them for like 20 years.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so John's going to come and ask me to rejoin Stinger. Well, I'm working 2 weeks later. I'm working in a club in Montebello Inn. And Larry has all the plugs put together like Christmas Vacation. The lights are going on and off. And I'm like, so I turn to the drummer and I say, Shatan's in the house. And I turn around. There's nobody there. I call it playing to the wall. I turn around and there's John. And I'm like, I turn around to the drummer and I say, wow, my agent's in the house. My old agent's in the house. He's the only one in the house. I go, Satan is in the house.
Wow.
Right. So we have dreams, they come true. And these are verifications that God is actually talking to us.
Yes.
If you hear a voice in your head that says, go kill somebody, that's not God.
Right.
Okay. If you hear a voice that says, go help that person on the corner, do it. Because that is God. God is love.
Yes.
God loves you.
Yeah.
And so he's going to give you the information to heal yourself. I prayed, please heal me financially, physically, mentally, spiritually, because I left my husband and I said, I'm not going to divorce you. And I said, God will take care of you. He's dead now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left, I was dragging my leg out like Igor. And I made it out because of God's love for me. And he has healed me. And I was talking to David about it the other day. And I said, at one point I was claustrophobic. I didn't realize when I asked for the healing, he's going to heal everything. I'm no longer claustrophobic.
Incredible.
God will heal you.
Yeah.
And I say, reach out. Your relationship is not my relationship.
Yep.
My mission is not your mission. Okay. God will respond to you. He will direct you, but you have to trust.
Yeah.
And if the voice that you're hearing is telling you to go out and do bad things, that's not God. That was also Joan of Arc. They asked Joan of Arc when she said, I'm hearing a voice that's telling me to do things. And the priest said, well, is he telling you to do bad things? She said, no, he's telling me to do good things. He says, then listen to that voice. That's a
Yes.
voice that I would listen to.
Yes. Yes. It's very important. And I was going to actually ask you how you got out of all this MKUltra programming. So
I would say God.
Yeah. Karen,
through everything that I was going through. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Penny, I've watched you and watched you on another show, and you talked about the show Stranger Things and the 11. And I wanted you to talk about that here with us and explain to us what
any
that
last
is.
words, any last encouraging words or thoughts or ideas that you have for our viewers?
Yes, I say if you have missing memories, there are ways and methods to retrieve those memories. And I also tell you to reach out and have a personal relationship with God. My personal relationship with Jesus has been well established since I was a child. That's the person that when I got killed a bunch of times and I came back, I always talked about Jesus because he has been my salvation and my guiding force. And when you reach out and you start researching and you start finding about family members that may be engaged in elitist and satanic activities, I'm going to tell you that you can rebuke these demonic entities in the name of Jesus. That's the name that I call upon. And it works every time. They disappear because it's not like there's magic in the name. There is power in that name, in the name Jesus Christ. So that's and then as far as if you're trying to retain or if you have any questions, I'm going to again give out my phone number. It's 619-779-9771. And my email is penny@darkoutpost.com. And you can reach me there. You can also go to my blog. I suggest writing. I also suggest ask God about everything. Ask God, what to wear in the morning, to guide your every movement, to guide your feet, because that's how you're going to get the answers. And that's what I asked God. I said, reveal myself to me. That was my prayer. God, reveal myself to me. And it's been a journey, and he knows you. He's not going to reveal it all at once so your head explodes. He's going to make it convenient so that you can absorb. And he knows your heart. He knows your strength. So he's not going to, I know there's an old adage saying he'll never give you more than you can handle. The devil will for sure try to. The devil will confuse and give you chaos. And, the devil's best trick is to tell you that he doesn't exist. And don't believe that for a moment. He has thousands and legions of minions that will be attacking you when you start to try to find the light. So those are my small words of encouragement. And I hope that everyone that endeavors to find out who they are is able to find their journey. And I suggest that in order to do that, make the prayer to God and ask him to reveal these things to you.
Wow, that's beautiful, Penny. You guys, so what Penny's been telling you is have a tangible personal relationship. It's not about religion. It's not about churches. It's about a tangible personal relationship with your Heavenly Father, who is divine creator of all, with Jesus, with Holy Spirit, who is like your mom, guiding you and teaching you. And do not give in to fear. I know that the show maybe was a little bit hard, but I know also that it stretched you because we need to be stretched. And, we just bless you in your awakening process, in your realization, in the connecting of the dots, so that you can walk towards your healing, so that you can become who you were created to become and do what you were created to do. Because greater is that power, the fractals of what is in you, than any power that's out there. Remember that. And again, if you need help, if you want to reach out to Penny, she has given you the information. We will share the information again with you. We bless you. We thank you for watching, Penny. Thank you so much for being with us. So appreciate everything you do and your time, the time that you pour in to help people. We thank you so much. You guys, thank you. And if you want to join us, Karen, go ahead.
Yes, join us over at the Patreon for the Quest for Truth, where you can sign up there and get the after the show truth session, because Penny's going to come on with us right now over there. So come over, join us there. Penny's going to be there talking about some other things that we want to talk about that maybe we couldn't do here
Talking
for
about
now.
stranger things.
And then we appreciate, Penny, for you coming on the show, and we appreciate everyone that's watching the show and being part of the Quest for Truth. So thank you so much. And Corina, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And we will see you next time. Have a blessed day and a blessed awakening.